Base. Here we are. It's I think it's March 3rd. It's Wednesday, 3rd or 4th or something like that. I don't know. I don't have my phone with me here. We got over and cleaned these up really good. Got them good and square and flat, and knocked all the weld boogers off of them. Just trying to get things squared up. We don't know, how far away from the yoke it's going to be just yet, for the caliper to sit correctly on the diameter of the rotor, right? So really the brake pad and everything, caliper has to fit to the rotor. And if there's a gap, say there's a gap between our yoke and the bracket here, so there's to fit correctly. There's a gap there. We'll just fit that piece of whatever we're going to make our little gusset or flat plate out of to strengthen and weld to, out of whatever thickness we need to get to where we're going. If we have to, we'll put a piece of 1/4 inch in there, and then we'll just take more of this if it's too much, and we'll just take a little more of this down until it's fitting right. Now, we've got more work to do with these brakes. This is the brake pad that came out of it. As you can see, that's not a Kelgate brake. That's something somebody bought at the hardware or at the auto parts store and just carved it out. And although I wouldn't have used a pad that had rivets or anything in it. I'd have used a bonded pad myself. Making them yourself is not completely out of the question or out of line. I found these pads, a Kelgate pad that's a direct replacement, an OEM replacement from Sinter. They're a brake pad company. They make them for all the carts. There was a place in Slovenia, best brake pads for carts or something or another. Come to find out, they didn't have any of these in stock when I placed the order, and they really supply manufacturers. Intrepid and Burrell and Tony Kart and on and on and on. So CRG, all that stuff. So in each of the manufacturers kind of got a little different pad. I could probably get a Burrell pad that's real close, or a Tony Kart pad that's real close, and maybe sand it down or make it fit. But I can make them for free. I have more than enough of these. These are Kelgate, the same type of pad that goes in the rear on this cart and the front and rear on my shifter cart. These are from Pierre Huang. I had him take the pad, some of the material down. Usually the whole thing is brake pad all the way to the top of here. And what we had is the same thing this guy had going here, where the outside diameter of the rotor, the entire pad surface doesn't make contact, and as it wears, in my case, they could literally wear far enough that the pads that aren't the part of the lining that's not wearing could literally touch and inhibit you from doing any braking. So I just had Pierre remove the bit that I didn't need on my specific pads. He's cool that way, and he's got the best material. So this is a used set, and what we needed to fit, as you can see, these are pretty thin as well. With a 5mm rotor, 7mm backing plate and lining combined is 14, right? Plus 9 is 19mm, and we have a 20mm gap here on the caliper itself, right, where the pads go in, where that rotor would fit in there. Not here, but in the big fat thick part there. That's a 20mm gap across here. And with a 5mm rotor, 7 mils on each side, we got 1mm of total clearance, right? So that's what the Sinter pad measured. The correct measurement was 39.2 millimeter, 47.6 millimeter tall, and it was 7mm thick. So we know what they're supposed to be right from the factory. We start measuring these pads, and we find there's enough there. As you can see, that one's worn, a little cockeyed. But even though it looks like it's worn out for what I was doing, it still is right in the ballpark here. Let me sit you down. Right in the ballpark for what we're looking for. let's zero that out. And here we are at 7.29 millimeter, right at the skinniest part of the pad, way up at the top. We're at 680, 685. So even though it looks like it's worn out, we can actually take the new pad from one side, you know, and what we'll do is we'll take it over to Rich's belt sander and we'll make sure we sand these flat, so and they're at as close to 7 millimeter, 6.5 to 7 millimeter. So we'll have good fresh pad for our cart as we're putting it back together. Sure beats the heck out of these, although these worked fine. These worked great up there at Grattan. It just looks a little hokey to me. So that's what we're working on. We've got this stuff is ready to go. So what we'll start doing is getting a fixture worked up to hold these bits together. I think what we determined by looking at the old spindles down there is they look like they're relatively right in the middle. Hard to say because it's not a straight U like it is here. It's actually an angled U-shaped. But if you look at the distance here and the distance here, it's pretty close to in the middle. It might be just toward, this is the top side, it might be just toward the top a bit. But it's almost like an illusion because it's bent a little more here than it is here. So maybe we'll go just right of center, just upwards of the center line instead of putting it right in the middle. Then again, we know we've got more movement, adjustment on the kingpin with this American setup than the metric because we're at 2.5 instead of 2 1/8 on the inside. So I don't think it's going to make any difference. We're going to be able to fudge the ride height in so it's not doing a wheelie and it's not dragging on the ground. We'll be able to get it flat and we'll still have enough adjustment to get the corners, the weights on the corners relatively close. So that's where we're at with part 2 with the spindle stuff. We got these. We also have these brake pad things to work on. Plenty to keep us busy. We're going to get this place cleaned up a little bit here before we get moving into the next portion of all this. We'll go ahead and take the little mini blaster and sandblast, get all the paint and stuff off there and get them all cleaned up, get them ready to go. And we'll get things tacked in place once we get our little fixture built up and set hubs and wheels and tires and stuff on the chassis so we can get an idea of what they look like. And if we, once we're happy with the wheel tire being straight up and down, then we'll send them off to Rich. He can take them to work and TIG weld everything together. We'll do the same with setting up the front brakes. When everything's done on the spindles, we'll normalize those. We'll take them in the house and throw them in the oven at like 450, and we'll warm them up real good. We'll let them sit there for about an hour, and then we'll start slowing it down to 450, 400, 375, 350, 300, and we'll back it on down. Then we'll just let them sit there and cool off, and it normalizes things up. That's, when we make our own spindles, that's what we do. Some people don't bother. I guess if you're at the track and one broke and you were welded it, you wouldn't have time to do that, and you wouldn't bother. Probably wouldn't think about it. But from brand new like that, that's what we do. So that's where we're at. It's dark out now, as you can see. We're gonna head in. It's been a full day. And we'll bring you some more as we get this stuff worked up. It'll be interesting working on those brake pads. Talk to y'all soon. Hang in there. It'll get better. See y'all.